It's going to be a bumpy night.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. Wait a minute, I tell you. You ain't heard nothing.
So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as bad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm mad as hell, I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell,
I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell, I'm not gonna take it anymore!
Welcome to another exciting, action-packed David Pollack Show. As I say every week, what a week it's been. But seriously, what a week it's been. Since we last spoke, just a week ago, Trump is now the official nominee, well, presumptive nominee for the Republican Party. That's right. There was no 13th fella for Nikki. Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee. Now coming up, I think tomorrow we have Florida, Ohio, Kansas, and some other states, a whole bunch of states coming in tomorrow, putting him even further over the top. But he's the nominee now. That's it. Everything, the left, the establishment, the uniparty, everything they did to try to stop him failed. Donald Trump is a presumptive nominee. But that's not stopping the lawfare or whatever you want to call it, the indictments and everything where they're going after Trump. Because this week, there was also some very huge, you can call it coincidental, but this week there was these huge rulings coming out of all these different cases. Now, in the case in New York, Alvin Bragg, there is now a postponement. He wanted the trial at least to begin, I think, in March, but now it's being pushed off till April. So some new evidence can be reviewed. So that's been delayed a little bit, but that happened last week. Fani, judge gave her an ultimatum: either you're out or your boyfriend, Mr. Wade, is out because of the appearance of impropriety. That happened since we last spoke. And then there was a key ruling, well, sort of a key ruling from Judge Cannon in the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case. There, she did not yet accept the motion to dismiss on the grounds of vagueness on I guess it was the espionage charge. But she did say they can preserve that issue for later on in trial, and she's yet to rule on some of those other things regarding presidential immunity. So there was an update there as well. Look, Trump becomes the presumptive nominee, and all of a sudden, these court cases are at the forefront. And it's not just the court cases that are at the forefront. The fake news media is in overdrive now. I'm sure you've seen all the bloodbath conversations over the weekend. Bloodbath, because when Trump is in Ohio talking about the auto manufacturer, I guess China was trying to move to Mexico and build cars and sell them to the United States. And Trump was saying they're not going to do that on his watch. And he said if Joe Biden won, it would be a bloodbath. Check it out.
China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, all he does is build car manufacturing plants. He's the biggest in the world. I mean, honestly, I joke about it. He can't walk across the street. In that way, he's like Biden. But for building a plant, he can do the greatest plants in the world, right? That's all he cares about. I said, I'd like to see one of your plants recently. I said, I'd like to see, where can we go? Well, we have to travel to Mexico. I said, why Mexico? He said, because that's where the big plants are building. China's building really big plants in Mexico, and Mexico's building. What about here? Well, we're building much smaller plants here. Can you believe it?
Now, you guys heard the words. You heard it from his mouth, exactly what he said. But it doesn't matter what he said, because this is what the fake news is saying he said. Check it out.
During a campaign rally in Ohio on Saturday, former President Trump promised to place tariffs on cars manufactured abroad if he's reelected, and made a dire prediction of what would happen if he is not.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
In response to the former president's comments, a campaign spokeswoman told NBC News Biden's policies will create an economic bloodbath for the auto industry and auto workers. A spokesman for President Biden's re-election campaign later said Mr. Trump was doubling down on his threats of political violence with that bloodbath comment.
And it's not just that. Headline after headline, whether it's CBS, NBC, all of them, Politico, they're all saying the same thing. Trump says a bloodbath if he doesn't win, completely leaving out the context. And even when they put the context in, they still don't believe it. Look at this one.
David, what did you think about Donald Trump's bloodbath comments? And I must note, look, Donald Trump's campaign says that he was talking about an economic bloodbath. Yeah. I don't know if I buy that, but that is in fact what the campaign said.
And they're not going to stop. They're going to set the narrative. They're going to make it seem as if, you remember all those moments, those fine people on both sides after the that West Virginia incident. I forget when it was, but it's always the media mischaracterizing what's going on to set a narrative. They did it in 2020. They did it in 2016. And they're up to the little tricks again. Not a week since Trump becomes a presumptive nominee. They're talking about the court cases. They're spinning up the fake news machines. I mean, it is just unbelievable. But that's what we're up against. And that's why the title of tonight's show is basically the fake news bloodbath, because that's what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with misinformation and fake news. But before I go any further, I want to let you know about a couple other things that have been going on since we last spoke. Now, you might have heard there has been a power shift over at the RNC. Ronna McDaniel Romney is gone, and now we have new leadership. Laura Trump is the vice chair, and you know who one of the first people she hires? Scott Pressler. That's right, a good friend of the David Pollack Show. Scott Pressler has been hired to help with legal is the key word, ballot harvesting. So he'll be leading up that initiative and working on getting voter turnout and everything that's in his wheelhouse. So that's fantastic for Scott. And, you know, it's just been crazy out here. Everything's happening. But let me bring in somebody for reaction to everything that's going on, whether it be fake news and whether it be all the breaking news, the court cases. I want to bring in somebody you know very well. I want to welcome Puppet Carlson to the David Pollack Show.
Hey, David! What's up, buddy?
Hey, Puppet. So you're sitting backstage and listening to everything that's going on since we last spoke. We had the Trump's now the presumptive nominee. We have Fani having to fire her boyfriend. We had ruling in Judge Cannon's case. There's a delay in the New York case and fake news all happening right now. And I wanted to get your reaction. What do you think about everything that's happening right now, fake news and the like?
Okay. Let's take them one at a time, shall we, David?
Sure.
So, yeah, of course, Trump's the now presumptive nominee. Like we didn't know that was going to happen. If you guys don't realize that the America First movement is chugging forward full steam ahead with Donald J. Trump as the conductor, you guys are crazy because he is the engineer and he's driving this train, and we are going forward to 2024 win now for sure. So now I think you'll start to see the party start to move a little bit more in our direction. I think you're going to see the rhinos shift a little bit more in our direction. Now we've got the RNC changeover, as you mentioned. We got Ronna McDonald out of there, and now we can move that clown circus out, and we can bring our people in. We can bring some America First people to the table and actually try to win an election for a change instead of losing them. Maybe by design, I don't know. I mean, that's more just tinfoil hat conspiracy theories, but hey, those have been pretty spot on lately. So yeah, that one's a slam dunk. That one's a no-brainer. Then we have the Fani. You got a big Fani Willis debacle. And you know what? I just got to say, yes, I'm happy the judge ruled with an ultimatum that said you either got to go or Nathan Wade's got to go. But come on now. She perjured herself on the stand. It's not a debate. It's a matter of fact. Everybody knows it. She swore an oath to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. She's a prosecutor. Like, how do you do that in a court of law and then not have any consequences? This is the problem with America today. There are no consequences for people on the left or people that the left endorse or people that the left that are connected to the left agenda. They all get off scot-free. Migrants, I'm using that word because that's how the left looks at them. Fani, and all of these people. But then you have on the other side, you got an ex-president who's being tried with 91 counts. It's never been done in the history of our country. You've got him in lawsuits that are just ridiculous. And not only just lawsuits, but in certain cases, convictions for certain, crazy things. It just that makes no sense. But she can perjure herself in a court of law, and we're going to kick him out, but you're still good. You're still good. No ramifications. Personal responsibility, folks. It's what makes this country what makes this country great and what makes it sustainable. Without it, we have nothing. And this lawlessness has got to stop, and it will stop when Trump gets in office.
Yeah, some suggest that because even though she wasn't forced to be removed from this case, somebody filed a bar complaint against her. And so maybe she'll get in trouble with the bar because she was dishonest and not forthcoming with information. And so she might have a bar issue at hand based on her behavior. So maybe she will be held accountable. We'll see.
She should have a bar issue. I mean, it's pretty cut and dried.
Yeah, that one's crazy, but we'll wait and see what happens. And now, of course, the fake news was out there saying that, trying to make it seem as if Trump lost, that their motion to dismiss on the vagueness of the espionage thing. And without getting too in the nitty-gritty of the law of it, essentially, there was only one issue that the judge ruled on. It's the presidential immunity is still pending. They just said that the judge just said she wasn't going to dismiss based on the argument that the Espionage Act was vague because she wants to preserve that for jury instructions and or other proceedings. So what she's saying is, we talked about this on DC After Dark last week. You need you need to have intent, mens rea. You need intent for a criminal to commit a crime. So the defense can later argue that it's so vague that how could he have intended to do this based on this statute? So he didn't lose anything, but they're going to make it seem as if he did because it's fake news. They have to craft the narrative, of course. But it's just been overdrive. And of course, we talked about the bloodbath, right? And you remember during after January 6th, they were trying to say when they impeached him the second time, they're saying he kept saying fight, 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 and they're suggesting that because he used the word fight, he was calling for a quote unquote insurrection.
Yeah.
And now there's all these clips everywhere where the bloodbath is being discussed. Like Bernie Sanders has used the term bloodbath. The news has used the term. It's a commonly used term. And now, of course, they're saying Trump is threatening people by saying it's a bloodbath. The other fake news thing, I didn't even mention this earlier, Puppet. Trump said at a rally over the weekend that Liz Cheney should be put in jail, her and others from the January 6th committee. And of course, the fake news is saying Trump is trying to jail his political opponents, which is what Biden's doing.
Exactly what Biden's doing, yes.
Yeah, which is what Biden's doing. But the context of that is there was a report out a few days ago that showed that Liz Cheney and others from the January 6th committee did not include exculpatory evidence where Trump was asking for, I think, 10,000 National Guards troops, and they left it out of the report. And so what Trump is saying is if they intentionally left things out of this report, they should be held criminally liable for it. That's what he's saying.
That's exactly what he's saying, and they should. They took critical information. They left it out on purpose. They knew the truth, and they framed a narrative through the case that made something else seem like what it was when it really wasn't. They did the same thing with the evidence related to the Secret Service agent who was in driving Trump from the rally to the Capitol, and they said that he grabbed the wheel and tried to guide the car to the Capitol, which is just absurd in just even thinking that when you think about that. But then they had testimony from the Secret Service agent that said that didn't happen. They left that out of the report. How do you leave that kind of evidence out of the report?
Well, there was other information, I think, that came out the other day that confirmed that CIA was on the ground and involved in some capacity. I mean, there has been controversy after controversy. And then I don't know if you saw Liz Cheney, Brett Baier. Actually, Brett Baier is like the ultimate news guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He looks like the news guy. He has a great voice. But I have to say I have new respect for Brett Baier after he pushed back hard on Liz Cheney and tried to call her out on her hypocrisy. And you can see the anger that she has towards President Trump and what she's willing to do. I mean, you can see how much they hate him. And that answers your question. I have a clip of it. Check it out.
This is the Wall Street Journal. This is not a MAGA, op-ed here. And they say Trump as dictator is classic case of projection. Abuse executive power, ignore the law, run roughshod over individual liberties, retaliate against political opponents. Mr. Biden and his allies have done exactly what they warned Mr. Trump will do if he returns to the White House. Unlike Mr. Biden, however, Mr. Trump would have to contend with a hostile media and a federal bureaucracy that would be throwing pots, pans, and candlesticks at him at every step.
Well, I think they're wrong. I think if you look at, we don't have to guess about what next President Trump would do because he did it before. And he would not have around him the people that were around him, the people, frankly, that the country will hear from as his trial moves forward, who were all his appointees, people that he appointed to the White House counsel's office, the Department of Justice, his own family, people that told him on January 6th, as you and I were talking that day, actually, that he needed to tell the mob to go home. people who told him that what he was doing was illegal. Those people won't be around him. And
so you can see there how irritated she is to even have to answer for it. I mean, we're all glad she's gone. But this is what Trump has been dealing with, people like that. And you saw where she says, Trump, he's not going to have people around him to stop him the next time, suggesting as if the people in Trump's circle were there to kind of oppose him. I mean, this is what we're up. This is the deep state. That is
the deep state. She is the deep state.
And the Republican establishment. Everything that is just wrong with what everybody's upset about in the Republican Party. Now, I do have a surprise puppet coming up a little later on the show. There's a guy right now, speaking of establishment, there's a guy, a representative out of South Carolina, a guy named Adam Morgan. Have you seen this guy?
Yeah.
Adam Morgan has been all over the place on social media because of an older clip where he's basically pushing back on representatives from his state. They're like, we should listen to our experts over the people, shouldn't we? He's like, absolutely not. That's the craziest thing ever. Well, Matt Gaetz put out a tweet and said, inject this into my veins. And it made Adam Morgan an overnight celebrity. He's running for Congress. He's going to be on the show a little bit later, and I'm super excited to interview him. And
I'm excited for that interview.
Yeah, he is. But he's pushing back on the establishment because and that message. This is what everybody's irritated, right? You can see Liz Cheney's anger. You see everybody trying to use everything, throw everything at Trump to try to stop him. Meanwhile, the American people are sitting back and cheering Trump on more and more every day, because these are the people that the Republicans can't stand. These are the people that keep narrowing our majority in the House. They can't pass a bill. So, Trump becomes a presumptive nominee. All these court cases are breaking. The fake news is out in full force. And as a Trump supporter and as an anti-establishment Republican, I can't be happier about it because they're losing their flipping minds, right, Puppet?
Yeah, I'm happy about it too. And that clip of Adam there, it just is the epitome of what the problem is in government and politics today. Like, these guys are saying, your constituents don't know what the heck they want, what the heck they need. Don't you think we should handle this here in government ourselves with our quote unquote experts? Yeah, and not take the advice of the constituents? And of course, to his credit, and thank God there are a few of these people actually in the government, he stood up for the constituents, which is his job, which is why he's in office, which is why we pay him to take our opinion seriously and bring our point of view to the government and allow us to speak through him. And they're saying, these elitists despise the people. These elitists in the Republican Party, the elitists in the Democratic Party, which is most of them. And it's just perpetuated deep into not even just the elected officials, but the non-elected people that are there in the government. And that's what creates the deep state. And that's why it just continues to roll and roll and roll. And Liz Cheney is correct when she says that Trump is not going to have these people around him in this next term, because he's wisened up this time, and hopefully he will clean house of all of these rhino Republican establishment people that he was in his last term taking some advice from, and just get rid of them and start from scratch. And of course, that terrifies them to no end.
Yeah, well, and already we're starting to see it. You heard me mention that Scott Pressler now is working with the RNC. Ronna McDaniel ignored him for, I think, 260-something days in a row when he's out there registering voters and being effective. And, and apparently there was a bloodbath at the RNC after the new leadership came in, and they cut a lot of people out because they're building a leaner, more effective RNC.
We need a bloodbath in government.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
One of my neighbors said, dang it, now I'm going to have to start sending money to the RNC. I mean, this shows you how angry Republicans were with the establishment. And with all of these changes, I think there's going to be a renewed sense. This is Trump's Republican Party now. Yeah. This is the Republican Party that I've been hoping for a really long time. Because the first time it was Trump's Republican Party, it really wasn't. They pretended it was his Republican Party, but they stabbed him in the back. Liz Cheney, you heard her. Liz Cheney is a perfect example of how they felt about him. Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, all these people who pretended, Chris Christie, all these people that pretended to be on Trump's side were never on Trump's side. But now, with the RNC being cleaned out and allies being put in charge, and now you see all of these retirement after retirement after retirement, all of the never Trump establishment-y Republicans are bailing, knowing that the Trump chain's coming through.
Oh yeah. We could have a whole show on that too.
Oh yeah, we'll do it next time. But certainly, I mean, this is Trump's Republican Party, and this is the party that's attracting all types of new voters: Democrats, Republicans, independents, people who never interested in being elected. And it's on fundamental issues like grocery prices and gas prices and the border and crime and wars and
the heart of our country and our lifestyle.
Yeah. And it's all changing. And if it's a big if they allow Donald Trump to become president, I know he's going to be elected by the people, but if they allow Donald Trump to become president, I think his next term might be one of the most unifying and successful terms of any president ever at this point. The enthusiasm that this man has behind him, he can't be stopped, right?
Well, I hope not. And, I'm looking for the same bloodbath that Javier Milei has done in Argentina with our deep state government. Just start canceling these departments, start canceling these programs, and begin again with a fresh, clean slate. Because we need a bloodbath in the deep state. Now let's jump up back to that bloodbath video that you played, because this is just the epitome of the leftist propaganda, fake media machine. If you watch the Trump clip, he is clearly talking about that if we allow China to sell vehicles into the American market without a tariff, without any kind of intelligent deal done, that it's going to be an economic bloodbath for our country. They're going to make a ton of money off of us, and we're going to lose in a million ways. That's the bloodbath. And it was obvious and clear exactly what he was saying if you listen to his speech and to his words. When you listen to the leftist recantment media regarding the quote-unquote bloodbath conversation, there's no way you can take what he said out of context to mean what they're talking about it meaning. They're just taking a word, expecting no one to have listened to him, or they just think we're really stupid, and then saying it means something completely different, which you can't possibly take that meaning from what he actually said. He didn't say anything about harming anyone or doing anything to anyone. It had nothing to do with that. It was simply a hyperbolistic comment about the ramifications of a business deal. And they are turning it into hate speech, because that's what the lefts do. They turn everything into hate speech or racism or some kind of pitting two different groups of people together. And that's the kind of stuff that is tearing our country apart limb from limb and continues. All you have to do is watch CNN or MSNBC for any length of time, and you're going to hate half the country, period.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the funny thing, and thank God for X now, right?
Yeah.
Because there's actually an article about this that said social media quickly corrects the reporting that Donald Trump called for a bloodbath or whatever. But it's all over X. The record's being corrected constantly, because now at least we have one social media platform we can tell the truth. They've tried. Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about this. They're banning TikTok. I don't even have time to get into this because I got to take a break.
Oh, geez.
But yeah, I mean,
that's a whole show too.
That's a whole show too. But we'll cover that more. David Pollack Show Spaces are coming back.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it on the Space.
And we got to talk about it in the Space. Puppet, I got to take a break because when I come back, Adam Morgan is joining us, as I mentioned, and we're going to go and look at that video. We're going to talk to Adam, find out what inspired him, what makes him tick. So it'll be really exciting. But Puppet, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you in the post-show space.
Okay, see you then.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, like I promised, and when we come back, Adam Morgan is on the show. Don't go anywhere. David Pollack Show is coming right back.
Hey friends, David Pollack here. If you're craving the best soft serve ice cream around, Topper's Creamery's got you covered. Serving the Apopka community for over a decade, Topper's is known for the finest old-fashioned custard-style soft-serve ice cream in a variety of flavors, from their French vanilla bean to exciting specials like German chocolate cake. But the experience doesn't end there. Be sure to grab a fresh baked waffle cone or a sundae topped with my favorite, the fresh baked brownies. They even offer pup cups for your four-legged friends. So hurry in to Topper's Creamery in Apopka, South 512 Hunt Club Road. Make sure to tell them David sent you. Business owners, are you sick of dealing with those big-name telecommunications companies that leave you frustrated with terrible customer service and then lock you into long-term contracts? That's why I want to introduce you to my friends over at Public Telephone Company. They are an industry-leading VoIP provider offering all-in-one business communication solutions that are completely contract-free with competitive pricing. But perhaps the best part, they're all about supporting their customers with US-based customer service, and they're always willing to go the extra mile. Don't let your phone company drive you mad. Call Public Telephone Company today at 877-314-4080 or visit them at publictelephonecompany.com. That's publictelephonecompany.com.
With today's economic environment, it's never been more important to secure your hard-earned wealth for you and your family's future. FinSec Life works to offer industry-leading customer service to help successful individuals and businesses protect their wealth. Whether it's a business succession plan, estate liquidity, or a variety of life and long-term care policies, FinSec Life can help deliver peace of mind, knowing that if something happens, you or your company is taken care of. Visit finseclife.com. That's FINSEC life.com. Securities offered through Valmark Security Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Valmark Advisors Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. FinSec Life is a separate entity from Valmark Securities Inc. and Valmark Advisors Inc.
Patriots, listen up. It's time to wake up and smell the freedom. Beard Vet Coffee is here to fuel your American spirit. This isn't just coffee. It's a battle cry in a cup, a declaration of love for the land of the free and the home of the brave. Crafted by the hands of those who've walked the walk, talked the talk, and, grown the damn beard. Vet-founded, vet-focused, and beard-operated. This is coffee with a mission, a purpose, and a testament to the unyielding American spirit. It's a tribute to the tireless resolve that courses through the veins of our great nation. This is the taste of victory, the flavor of freedom, the coffee that stands as firm as our belief in America's destiny to lead and never to kneel. Beard Vet Coffee is more than a brand. It's a legacy steeped in the principles that make America great. It's for those who stand with pride under the stars and stripes, who uphold the values that light the torch of liberty for the world to see. So, are you ready to supercharge your day the American way? Beard Vet Coffee is not just a choice. It's a declaration of independence from mediocre mornings. Bold, brave, unbound. Brewed for the American patriot. Beard Vet Coffee. Make your mornings great again.
The pressure in here in Colombia is for me to not even vote red on the board. Y'all might not know this. A dark money entity that was created on Tuesday, the day after we voted for this, I went home and a attack piece went out in my whole district about the fact that I voted for this. I get that the people in Colombia, that the lobby wants me to either not vote or to vote green on this, but my constituents want me to vote red, and they want their tax money spent on core government functions, on their roads, on their schools. That's what they want their money spent on. So, they don't want us in here trying to play this government planning thing where we in our bureaus can figure out where the job should be, who should be employed, how much money should be allocated where in the private sector. It never works. It's socialism. It's never worked anywhere before. So what are we doing trying to do it here?
But would you consider the fact that South Carolina's track record on bringing major projects into this state has a winning record And therefore, again, commerce should be listened to rather than those people back in your district that may not have ever brokered a deal, may not understand what it means to being a project, may not understand economic incentives. So what you're suggesting is we should listen to the people back home in your district rather than the people at Commerce that have been successful at bringing these mega deals to South Carolina.
Mr. Rutherford, I don't think that you could have espoused a philosophy that disagrees more fundamentally than me. I completely disagree with you, and I think that you believe what you just said. But no, I 100% am going to listen to the people back home who I represent in this House, and you should listen to the 40,000 people in your area, and not the bureaucrats at Commerce, and not the lobbyists, and not the multi-billion-dollar international corporations. You should listen to your constituents like I am. So yes, I will always fall back on the common sense of the wonderful people from Taylor's and Greenville Eastside, far more than I will ever listen to unelected bureaucrats, other representatives in here who have been here for far too long and have maybe managed a whole lot of these deals, and far more than I will ever listen to any member out there.
So, Mr. Morgan, we don't.
That was Representative Adam Morgan. That is everywhere these days. And now he's joining me on the David Pollack Show. Now, a little bit about Adam. He's running for Congress in District 4, but he's also a current state representative in South Carolina, District 20. And he's also the chairman of the South Carolina House Freedom Caucus. These are the type of guys that we want in Washington, which is why Adam is in love with you these days, right? And welcome to the show. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that video now that is basically the most popular thing in politics?
Well, thanks for having me on. It's been a wild week. I got to say, a lot of people don't realize that video is actually older. It's not a clip from like this week. And what happened is Matt Gaetz heard that I was running. I'm challenging an incumbent, which is not common to get a lot of support and buzz. People just assume incumbents win because they have lots of money. But people heard, he's chair of the Freedom Caucus. They've had a lot of wins. So he checked my socials out and found this video and tweeted it out and said, "Inject this in my veins." And it started going viral. And it just kind of every day got bigger and bigger. And it was a crazy experience. I couldn't even refresh my Twitter anymore for a while. It was going so crazy. And I think what the reason is it resonates with Americans who are watching this, and they hear for the first time on camera, a member of the Uniparty, the leader of the Democrat Party in South Carolina, say the quiet part out loud. Your constituents, those people back home, are too stupid or too simple to understand the intricacies of how the economy works, or how certain deals should be made, or how our tax dollars should be allocated. So you should be ignoring them, and you should be listening to unelected bureaucrats and lobbyists and this multi-billion-dollar corporation that they were trying to coax with tax dollars to come to South Carolina. And that company was Volkswagen. They were offering them $1.3 billion in incentives and taxpayer cash, actually writing a check for $400 million out of our reserve fund saying, "Hey, Volkswagen, please come here. And by the way, they're making electric vehicles, which is a failing market propped up by Biden subsidies. They're going to force ESG compliance on all the people that are going to work with them." So we're literally paying to have a company come in and change our culture. And it's on the taxpayer dime. And our roads are terrible in South Carolina. Anybody that's driven down to the beach, you're going to know, and you're going to sit there and go, why are you wasting your money on basically playing socialism in the market, picking winners and losers, instead of doing your core functions of government? And so I simply made that argument. And I think that's why people reacted so strongly, because it really pulled the mask off the Uniparty. We all know that they think that they're elitists who are all about government planning, and they're really just pushing socialism. But I was blessed with the opportunity to just really go back at it and provide an alternative, clear conservative values, and why at the end of the day, they're going to win. We don't create jobs. The American people create the jobs. The government is not what makes America great. The people are what makes America great. And we need to get back to that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll have to admit, I drive through South Carolina at least once or twice a year. And it's my least favorite. I'm in Florida. I always say Florida because that's what everyone says when they come down here. I have to drive through South Carolina to get to all the places I go. And I hit South Carolina. I'm like, man, what is wrong with these roads? There's always traffic. The roads are always under construction. You're exactly right. You need to prioritize the projects that actually benefit the people of South Carolina. And what's so interesting about what you said on the floor and what you said just now, it seems like in politics, the hierarchy is constituents, or let me take that back. It is the committees, it's the groups, the donors, the lobbyists. It seems like your voters, your constituents are the lowest, not yours, but for a politician, the lowest on a totem pole. It's like that's the people they consider the opinion of least. They're always talking to them. They're always saying, well, this is what, and we know what's going on because we're up there. We're talking to the experts. We know what's best for you. And it frustrates people because voters are smarter than the politicians get them credit for. And if you look right now, the whole emotion in the country right now, if I post something complaining about Republicans in Washington, it'll go viral on Twitter. I can post something negative about Biden, and it's like, yeah, we all agree. Yeah. Republicans are angry with Republicans because Republicans make promises. They go to Washington and then pat their voters on the head and say, thanks for voting. And now I'm going to go do what I think is best and what Kevin McCarthy thinks is best and what Speaker Johnson thinks is best. And at the end of the day, voters are back home with the grocery prices and the gas prices and their economy, their household, their interest rates, their insurance rates. They're suffering while Washington's eating steak and telling people at home what's best for them when they don't do what they were sent to Washington to do. You're running against an incumbent. Yeah, because you're trying to change the culture in Washington. You're a Freedom Caucus guy. And on the floor in South Carolina, you said, the quiet part out loud, but it wasn't the quiet part for us here at home. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so great about your message. And I think that's what's resonating. What do you think? Is Washington and even some of the people who are arguing with you in South Carolina, have they forgotten who they represent?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, actually, I'd argue they know exactly who they represent. They represent the lobbyists and the special interests and House leadership, and they care more about the ties that they have to that than they do their allegiance to the American people. I mean, literally, he said that. He said, "Oh, you think we should listen to the folks back home, instead of the people, the experts in commerce?" And I just thought that was crazy. Like, it's so out of touch. It's just shocking for people to hear it. And yeah, I think that what we have to do is we have to fight for our values. We have to expose the uniparty. And thankfully, this video, this debate helped me do that. And honestly, that's my record in South Carolina. I'm known for going after both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, when they're pushing crony schemes, when they're refuse to go on the record for issues, when they pass terrible budgets that waste money. We call them out. I don't care what party you're in. I care about the future of the country. And I'm going to be frank and honest and work towards a better future. And the fact is, when we fight, we win. In the Freedom Caucus, we've shut down taxpayer-funded pediatric transgender clinics. Like, they actually have one seeing kids 4 years old to 16 that was fully taxpayer-funded in South Carolina. And we exposed it and shut it down, and found out later that in the schools they were teaching CRT and all this racist stuff to the kids, telling them that the country's racist and their parents are racist. And we found it out once again, exposed it, tried to get help from other elected officials. Nobody would do anything about it. So we actually filed suit and got the programs removed from the schools. And so we actually fight and win. But so few Republicans are willing to actually step up and fight. They're terrified of the left. They're terrified of the media. And I just reject that. There's a quote out there that the problems that we have in this country are as much the fault of the radical left as they are the weakness on the right. I mean, do we always want to blame the left? The left has always been radical. They're always trying to turn this into a communist utopia and destroy our foundations. But it's the right who repeatedly cave and just let this constant creep of these philosophies that we know are corrosive, but yet we use them like the socialism and applying it to the free market. And we know that it damages the economy. We know it raises prices. We know it's picking winners and losers. But, I could go claim, like Nikki Haley did, I brought that company here and I created jobs. It's like, no, you didn't. The private sector created the jobs. Like, the government, stick to core government functions, do them excellently, and get out of the way. And let the American people thrive and flourish like they will when the government doesn't interfere in their lives.
Yeah, listen, there's a reason why you're going. Everybody wants to talk to you right now, because everything you're saying is what everybody's thinking. you'll hear so many excuses out of Washington, right? How frequently lately have we heard, well, we only control 1/2 of 1/3 of the republic of the government right now. We can't do these things. Excuse. We can't give you a balanced budget. We can't give you a debt ceiling. We can't give you individual spending bills. We can't close the border. We can't shut down the government in order to use our leverage to shut down the border and stop sending money. We can't do any of that because we only control the House. Well, when the Democrats controlled the House, what were they able to do? Impeach the president of the United States. They were able to do investigations. The Democrats do whatever they want to do when they have the slimmest of majorities. We have a majority, and all we can do is make excuses. I think you probably want to fix that when you get to Washington, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. When the Republicans are in control, the majority of the Republicans run to the Democrats and start cutting deals, and that's how they legislate. And those days have got to be over. We actually have to have a bold conservative agenda with clear, strong, competent leadership. It's a numbers game. You have to build coalitions. You have to speak truth and not be caving behind closed doors. I mean, that's the story of my opponent, the guy I'm running against. That's a Republican representing one of the most conservative areas in South Carolina. Like back last January, when they were dealing with the rules package, and the conservatives stood up and rolled back all those Pelosi rules that just neutered the House as an institution. And they fought that back. And we had some of the biggest conservative concessions in years and the advancement of our cause. Where was he? He was with McCarthy the whole time saying, oh, no, things are fine. Things are all good. And even working against the Freedom Caucus and the conservatives, going on the radio, attacking them. Meanwhile, right before my video went viral, a video of him went viral where it was exposed that he is a huge proponent of DEI in Congress. He actually celebrated the fact that he secured a DEI office in Congress to implement, their quotas and their hiring practices. And he literally said, we need to hire on the basis of race, gender, and even lifestyle, that our hiring practices to make sure the congressional office are proportional, in lifestyle to the population that you represent. It's like, buddy, that's discrimination. That's unconstitutional. Like, somebody give him a constitution, somebody inform him of the basics of law. But the thing is, that's a conservative saying that. Conservatives don't think like that. That's the difference between my opponent and I. When I was put on the spot, on the fly, and somebody's coming at me, and I'm explaining and defending my reasoning, what came out of me was what you saw on the floor, was conservative values, like cut wasteful spending, oppose socialism, stand up for your constituents. What happens with him? What does he say when he's just on the fly? Is DEI and cave to the left. He voted to give welfare to illegal immigrants the same day he took a picture of the border saying that he was strong on the border. It's like this kind of blatant hypocrisy that you see from politicians. We cannot accept it anymore. We have to have strong candidates who are competent, who will run, who will be bold, who can inform, advocate, and inspire other people to join our movement and actually save this country. And that's why I'm running for Congress. I mean, I've done it at the state level. We fight every day. What you saw on the floor, I keep getting asked in interviews, oh, well, is that a one-time thing? I'm like, no, you should tune into the feed of the House sometime. That's like every day we are in there fighting for the people, trying to defend our liberties. And we even get involved in other things. I mean, when our local county was hiking everybody's property taxes and breaking state law to do it, I sued them with my Freedom Caucus guys. And I'm not on county council, but I'm in a position of authority that people voted me in to fight for their freedoms and watch out for their tax dollars every day. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it in Washington. I'm going to fight and push the entire conference to the right and really do everything we can to rein in these rogue agencies and use the power of the purse. I mean, that's what we've got to do. We have to be as aggressive and actually have a conservative offensive to take back our country, to fight for our values, because I got a lot on the line. My kids are little. We can't give up on this nation, right? I mean, I can't throw my hands up because I got a newborn and a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. I want to preserve every bit of the blessings that I got in this nation for them and for their kids. And so in my time on this planet and my time in this arena, I'm going to fight. Because that's the heritage that we have, is patriots and fighters who fight tyranny, who fight communism, who beat it, who beat socialism, not ones who cave and cower and compromise. at every turn.
Yeah, you bring up two very important things. And the first thing was the fact that your opponent talks about being strong on the border and then comes out later and says supports giving him money when they come across. You talk about the DEI, and I'm sure when he's on the campaign trail, he's against it. But you talk about something else, too, that you've always been that fighter, that video that people are seeing. There's lots of videos like that.
Yeah.
And this is something that I don't think a lot of people get to see because, I've met people that are fighters running for state office, running for federal office. And the problem is when they run against these incumbents, they're met with force from the Republican establishment.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars that these candidates, because I'm sure you're going door to door, you're out there working every day. You're trying to get $100,000, $500,000 when your opponent's probably open up his mailbox and getting another $1 million from a different PAC. That's the challenge that incumbents, when you find real America First guys like yourself, Freedom Caucus guys like yourself, they run against these crooked incumbents and they have to run against attack ads, budgets that they can't even compete with. What you guys have to go up against, people running against the machine, I don't think people can begin to understand. And so when you're running against politicians who think their voters are stupid and can do whatever they want when they get to Washington, then you get fighters like yourself who wants to challenge it. This is what you're, and so there are people like you all across this country. And so the frustration that Republicans feel, know that there are guys like you everywhere and they're fighting. But the only way we're going to win, the only way we're going to boot these people who don't think that we deserve a say in Washington is to get behind guys like you. And that takes money, right?
Yeah, it does. And, I was one that didn't like the fundraising side. I'm like, we don't need money in politics, right? Let's just do the right thing and people will come along. And the reality is that these seats are bought by special interests. Like you mentioned, my opponent, I think it was last quarter, had like one in-district donation. All of the rest were special interest groups and DC consultants. And if we don't actually fight and we don't put our money where our mouth is and put our time and effort into working and supporting candidates that are running against these establishment hacks, the lobby fills the void and buys the seat. So it's time for us to rise up and work and give and fund good, strong conservative candidates. And, I'm fighting for this one, and I'm not going down without a strong fight. I think we're set to actually set him on this one. We have a really strong campaign. We've been fundraising. And this God thing is what I'm calling it, with this viral video. It definitely, the timing is perfect for the campaign. It's like, we're set up for success. People are hearing the message that never would before. Like right now, I'm talking to you and telling people about our story, and you can go look it up. The story of the Freedom Caucus is an underdog, an inspiring story that you're going to get juiced up by. The attack ads I mentioned in the clip, they have spent $1 million at a state level. Just wrap your mind around that for a second. $1 million on state legislators. So there's 17 of us in the Freedom Caucus trying to get rid of us, to unseat us, to slander us, to say we vote against, just all these false attack ads. And that's not happened anywhere else in the country, that kind of organized pushback from lobbied special interests. But we've been so successful and we're such a thorn in their flesh. And I'm the chair, so I'm like the lead thorn of the flesh. I mean, you saw me on the floor. There's a reason they really, really hate me. That's a badge of honor to me. And the thing is, they've dumped all this money and yet we still win every single day in that chamber. We shot down. They tried to bring the same Pelosi rules that my opponent defended and caved on and worked on with the moderates and the lefties in South Carolina. Our corrupt leadership saw that and thought, "Ooh, we like those Pelosi rules," and they brought them in South Carolina to try to keep us from being able to put conservative amendments on legislation. And we threw a fit. I went on Glenn Beck. I went on all the radio. I've talked to the press. I've railed everywhere I could about it. The people got fired up and contacted their legislators. And guess what? It killed the rules package and we won. And now we're sitting there last week on the budget, hammering them, pointing out all the socialism and the wasteful spending and the funding lewd art in gummy bear statues and commerce slush funds with millions of dollars when our roads are in terrible state. And we're sitting there fighting every day for every inch. And so I would encourage anybody watching to check your state. Like, do you have a Freedom Caucus in your state? these state legislators, because there's other fighters all over the country. I mean, there's the guy in Georgia that went after the prosecutor and they like removed him from his committee assignments. Brian Harrison down in Texas, who has just been literally torching the establishment there and calling him out, because in Texas, they literally put Democrats in charge of whole committees because their leadership is it's a uniparty. It's a coalition of Democrats and Republicans, and only the conservatives are not put on the good positions. It's the same thing in South Carolina. But by really exposing this and fighting for our values, we've actually been able to pass Save Women's Sports, that boys play and girls play in the gender of their birth. We've been able to pass constitutional carry. We went from one of the most restrictive gun control states to one of the strongest, being a constitutional carry state. We passed the bill banning transgender surgeries on minors. We've won on budget transparency. I mean, just on all these issues, like, there is a way. Don't watch this and think, oh, the uniparty is so strong and the money's so big, we can't win. It's like, no, you just have to find good quality candidates and get behind them. And for my race, if you're watching this and you're interested, vote AdamMorgan.com. I'm running for federal office, so I don't care where you live. What I'm voting on is affecting you. And so check out the website. Would love to have your support. Anything you can contribute. That's the good thing about this viral video is all these people got to see it. And I got all these new people who are like, yes, he's speaking for us and we're a fan. But guess what? A whole lot of people saw that and went, oh, crap, he cannot get an elected office. And so I'm expecting a lot of money to get dumped into my race, opposing me even more so than maybe there was before. But I think at the end of the day, I'm the opposite of my opponents. I trust the American people. I know that they're smart, that they're focused, and they know what's right. And as long as we get the message out there and they know the difference between us, they'll choose a fighter every day.
Adam Morgan, thank you so much. Keep up the fight. Good luck to you. I'm going to be following your race very closely, and I encourage all of my viewers, all of my listeners, go to it's voteadammorgan.com. And you can go, if you want to help him out with money, you can help him out with time, because time is even probably more valuable at this stage in the campaign sometimes than money if you don't have the money to give. So go to visit voteadammorgan.com. Thank you so much for being on the show, and good luck to you, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Wow. Now you see why everybody's going crazy about that video and why Matt Gaetz said to inject that in his veins. That is what the Republican Party needs invested in their veins. Not just the Republican Party. That's what all of Washington needs injected in their veins. I mean, the idea that this is uncommon, that he has to explain to his colleague why it's better to listen to his voters than to listen to some experts and lobbyists and special interests. I mean, this is what we're up against. These are the type of candidates that we need to send to Washington. And it's no wonder why everybody's going crazy about this video. Guys, I'm out of time. Make sure you go to the DCPatriot.com and check out my show, all past episodes. Check out DC After Dark, my other show with Matt Couch and Puppet Carlson, who you saw earlier. And check out all the great articles that we have over there for you. And don't forget, we have X Spaces coming back tonight right here after this show. And in just a couple of weeks, we're actually going to be airing these shows in our Twitter Spaces and then talking to you, the audience, after. If you guys are not checking me out on Rumble or on X or on any of the other platforms at DC Patriot, go check us out over there so you can see the video and not just hear my voice. That's you, radio audience. Anyway, I appreciate you listening every single week. You're the best part of the show, and we'll see you next week, same time, same place. Good night, everybody.